Happy birthday to baby.
Yeah, yeah.
December 11th, 2023. A day after Skinara Patterson's 34th birthday. The Northwest Las Vegas apartment should have been filled with leftover cake and birthday wishes. Instead, it became a crime scene of unimaginable horror. A brother, concerned after receiving troubling text messages, enters the family home to discover a nightmare. 4 bodies, 3 with execution-style gunshot wounds to the head. Skinara Nara Patterson, her 14-year-old daughter Kezia, and 6-year-old Zemira, all murdered in cold blood. 11-year-old Derek, clinging to life with a bullet in his skull. And their killer, Nara's husband Marvin Patterson, dead by his own hand. The most devastating part? This wasn't a spontaneous act of violence. Marvin Patterson was already facing 9 felony charges for child sex crimes. He was out on bail, a drastically reduced bail, when he decided to extinguish an entire family. This is the story of a system that failed, a family destroyed, and the warning signs everyone missed. Welcome to Explosive True Crime Stories, where we don't just tell you what happened. We analyze why it happened and how it could have been prevented. I'm Buseo, and today's episode examines a case that exposes critical failures in our justice system. We'll trace Nara Patterson's journey from devoted mother and entrepreneur to victim of domestic violence, explore how her husband's reduced bail led to catastrophic consequences, and identify the warning signs that went unheeded. Most importantly, we'll discuss what could have saved this family and how you can protect yourself and loved ones from similar situations. Before we dive deeper, I want you to think about something. Have you ever noticed concerning behavior in a friend's relationship but stayed silent? Or perhaps you've witnessed the justice system fail to protect vulnerable individuals. As you watch the story unfold, consider what red flags might have been visible to those around the Patterson family. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your insight could help someone recognize danger in their own life. And if you've experienced similar warning signs, know that you're not alone. Stay with me through this entire episode. The lessons here could save lives. Before December 11th transformed them into statistics, the Pattersons appeared to be a blended family, finding their rhythm. Skinara Nara Bernouti, a talented cosmetologist and entrepreneur, had built a life centered around her 3 children, 14-year-old Kezia, 11-year-old Derek, and 6-year-old Zemira. Social media showcased birthday parties, family outings, and Nara's growing business, One Customs, which specialized in custom party favors and clothing. In May 2019, Nara married Marvin Patterson in a traditional ceremony where her father proudly walked her down the aisle. Marvin seemed to embrace his role as stepfather to Kezia and Derek while sharing a biological daughter, Zemira, with Nara. Friends described them as hardworking and family-oriented. The couple's online presence portrayed domestic harmony, smiling photos and loving captions that gave no indication of the violence that would eventually destroy them. Behind this carefully curated image, however, dangerous secrets were brewing. Born on December 10, 1989 in Long Beach, California, Skinara Bernouti, known affectionately as Nara, grew up with an unbreakable bond with her sister Michaela, or Kayla, as she was known on social media. The sisters eventually relocated to Las Vegas, seeking new opportunities and a fresh start. Those who knew them described their relationship as extraordinarily close. They were each other's confidants, cheerleaders, and safety nets. Kayla would later become the keeper of her sister's memory, fighting to ensure Nara's story wasn't forgotten. In heartbreaking social media posts following the tragedy, Kayla shared glimpses of their shared childhood, their dreams, and the vibrant woman her sister had become. "My sister was sunshine," she wrote in one tribute. "She made everyone around her feel special." This sisterly connection represented the foundation of Nara's support system, a relationship built on unconditional love that would eventually become crucial in honoring her legacy. Motherhood defined Nara's identity. Friends consistently described her as the kind of mother who went above and beyond for Kezia, Derek DJ, and Zemira Duty. She meticulously planned elaborate birthday celebrations, like the Barbie-themed extravaganza for Zemira's 6th birthday, complete with custom decorations she designed herself. Her children's happiness wasn't just a priority, it was her mission. Alongside motherhood, Nara built a reputation as a skilled cosmetologist and entrepreneur. Her business, Ampoint Customs, showcased her creative talents through custom party favors, clothing, and accessories. Her intricate hair braiding work earned her a loyal clientele, with customers frequently praising her attention to detail and artistic vision. Social media became her portfolio, displaying both her professional accomplishments and maternal devotion. She was always hustling, recalled childhood friend Isaiah Robinson. Nara wanted to build something her kids could be proud of. This entrepreneurial spirit wasn't just about financial independence. It represented her determination to create stability for her family. She balanced late nights, fulfilling custom orders, with early mornings, getting her children ready for school. Even during financial struggles, Nara maintained this work ethic, often taking on additional clients or projects to ensure her children never went without. Her resilience in the face of challenges became a defining characteristic, one that made her tragic end all the more devastating. On May 11, 2019, Nara married Marvin Ray Patterson in a traditional ceremony. Photographs from that day show a beaming bride, her father proudly walking her down the aisle, surrounded by family and friends. The couple exchanged vows promising lifelong commitment, with Marvin appearing to embrace his role as stepfather to Kezia and DJ. At the time, they seemed genuinely committed to building a stable family unit. What wasn't apparent in those wedding photos was Marvin's complicated past. Public records would later reveal that he had finalized a divorce just 1 month before marrying Nara. He had 2 children from this previous marriage, though their involvement in his life remained unclear. Friends would later admit they knew little about Marvin's background or history. He maintained a relatively low profile in Nara's social media presence, occasionally appearing in family photos, but rarely featured prominently. This pattern of keeping certain aspects of his life private would later take on a more sinister significance. The Patterson family's social media presence painted a picture of domestic harmony. Nara frequently shared snapshots of family gatherings, her children's achievements, and everyday moments of joy. Videos captured Zemira dancing in the living room, DJ showing off basketball skills, and Kezia helping with her younger siblings. These glimpses into their home life suggested a loving, engaged family environment where children thrived under attentive parenting.
A lot of questions remain after the murders of 2 children and their mother. 1 boy remains in the hospital. And as the 8 News Now investigators first reported, the killer was on house arrest.
And the head of one local nonprofit says this tragic story deserves more of a community response and accountability. Investigator Vanessa Murphy with the story.
Marvin Patterson was on house arrest, facing charges of sex crimes against children, when Metro Police say he killed his daughter, stepdaughter, and wife, and also shot her son, who remains in the hospital.
If he had been in jail, none of this would have happened. Where he was supposed to be. I don't think they should have let him out at all.
The mother of Shanera Patterson at this vigil Monday night, hours after learning about her daughter and grandchildren. As the 8 News Now investigators first reported, Patterson's bail was initially set by a substitute judge last October at $100,000 with high-level electronic monitoring. She also ordered him to surrender his passport and stay away from children. About 2 months later, Judge Diana Sullivan reduced the bail to $10,000 with the same conditions. Records did not show any restrictions on firearms. Patterson posted bond through a Las Vegas bail company.
And that's a slap in the face to the victims.
Jasmine Lee runs the Doc Ellis Foundation, named after her father, which provides resources for the families of missing and murdered people of color.
When I looked at the charges, I was baffled because it could have been prevented. The lack of we're in danger. The community didn't realize that we have an individual who's floating around. That bothered me.
No comment from Judge Sullivan. Clark County District Attorney Steve Wolfson says his prosecutors argued against lowering the bail, while Patterson's defense attorney Brett Whipple points to this bail motion, which states Patterson had a good relationship with his wife and the children. The 8 News Now investigators also obtained Patterson's criminal history. In addition to the 9 felony charges he was set to go on trial for in April, there are several other arrests listed, the most recent in 2005, along with a warrant for failing to appear in court.
We need to sit down and we need to have a conversation. We need to talk with Metro. We need to talk with the individuals that are working in the judicial system. We need to hold this judge accountable and understand why she did what she did and how do we make sure that that does not happen again.
It is unclear why Shanera Patterson and the children were with Marvin Patterson on Monday. However, court records show she had recently been evicted. Lee says more organizations need to come together to help families in crisis, and more accountability is needed in the judicial system to avoid a tragedy like this. Vanessa Murphy, 8 News Now.
Vanessa, thank you. And today, a food truck fundraiser to help raise money for the family. The owner of Trap Wings says he knew Patterson and her children and wants to do his part.
In the weeks before the murder-suicide, the Patterson household was crumbling under the weight of financial distress. Court records and interviews with neighbors revealed a family facing imminent eviction from their Northwest Las Vegas apartment. Rent payments had fallen behind for several months, and multiple notices had been posted to their door, visible reminders of their precarious situation that Nara attempted to shield from her children. Simultaneously, their vehicle was under threat of repossession. This transportation lifeline, essential for Nara's business deliveries, Marvin's court appearances, and the children's school commutes, was slipping away. Bank statements would later show a pattern of declined transactions and overdraft fees, painting a picture of increasingly desperate financial circumstances. For Marvin, these financial pressures compounded the stress of his pending criminal case. With trial dates approaching and legal fees mounting, the walls were closing in. Friends noted that Nara had been taking on additional clients, working late into the night on custom orders to generate extra income. She was exhausted but determined, recalled one client who received a delivery just days before the tragedy. She mentioned needing to catch up on bills, but seemed hopeful they'd get through it. The combination of financial instability, legal jeopardy, and the stigma of his charges created a pressure cooker environment. For someone already accused of violence against vulnerable victims, these stressors didn't create violent tendencies. They unleashed them.
Family and friends gather. They describe Shanera as a loving mom and friend, and her girls as just the happiest little girls.
I treated them kids like they was my own.
An emotional night after Monday morning's tragedy. 5 people shot, 4 dead. The family clinging to their light in the darkness.
This was not supposed to happen.
Jamesetta Bernuti remembering her 34-year-old daughter, Shanera Patterson.
She was sweet, kind, do anything for you.
Shanera's sister, Michaela Bernuti.
She was there no matter who you was, how long she knew you. If she had it, she go give it to you.
Michaela describes her nieces, 14-year-old Keziah Cone, 6-year-old Zamira Patterson.
Duty, that's Zamira. She was sweet. Like, she was the most innocent child I ever met. Like, she didn't have a mean bone in her body. Keziah was goofy. She loved to draw.
Their brother, Derek Jr., recovering in the hospital.
He's still fighting. We praying for him. And he go pull through. He's strong.
Our 8 News Now investigators uncovering police records showing the gunman was accused of child sex crimes and was on house arrest.
If he had been in jail, none of this would have happened. Where he was supposed to be. I don't think they should have let him out at all.
For now, the family sending up their love and prayers. Lauren Negretti, 8 News Now.
Now, Metro confirms Patterson was on house arrest and forced to wear an ankle monitor. Our 8 News Now investigators discovered he was let out of jail after Judge Diana Sullivan reduced his bail from $100,000 to $10,000. But he was still ordered to stay away from children.
Against overwhelming odds, Derek showed signs of brain activity in the days following the surgery. He squeezed my hand. Kayla shared in a social media update that garnered thousands of supportive comments. The doctors say it's a good sign, but we have a long road ahead. The medical team cautioned that even if Derek survived, he would likely face significant challenges, possible cognitive impairments, motor skill deficits, and the psychological trauma of being the sole survivor of his family's murder. Yet his survival represented a single thread of hope in an otherwise unrelenting tragedy. A reminder that even in the darkest circumstances, life can persist. For the community rallying around him, Derek became a symbol of resilience and the possibility of healing. The decision to reduce Marvin Patterson's bail from $100,000 to $10,000 represents a critical failure point in this tragedy. Judge Diana Sullivan's ruling, made in December 2022, prioritized flight risk assessment over public safety concerns. When questioned after the murders, Sullivan cited a 2020 Nevada Supreme Court decision requiring judges to find the least restrictive means to ensure court appearances. This legal framework, while designed to prevent unnecessary pretrial detention, created a dangerous blind spot in cases involving violent or sexual offenses. The bail hearing transcripts reveal minimal discussion of the severity of Patterson's alleged crimes or the potential danger he posed to the community. His attorney successfully argued that his limited criminal history in Clark County, just a single misdemeanor from 16 years prior, indicated he wasn't a flight risk. This narrow focus ignored the nature of the pending charges and their implications for public safety. Criminal justice experts who reviewed the case noted that the bail system fundamentally failed to distinguish between nonviolent offenders who pose little community risk and those charged with predatory crimes against vulnerable victims. The system treated him like someone accused of property crime, not someone accused of systematically abusing children, explained Dr. Melissa Hernandez, a criminal justice professor at UNLV. This case exposes how bail decisions often operate in isolation from risk assessment, creating gaps that dangerous individuals can slip through. This systemic disconnect between bail determination and comprehensive threat evaluation would have devastating consequences for the Patterson family. Perhaps the most glaring oversight in Marvin Patterson's release conditions was the absence of firearm restrictions. Despite facing multiple felony charges involving violence against minors, no conditions were imposed to prevent him from possessing or acquiring weapons. This critical gap in the court's protective measures directly enabled the method of the murders. The unregistered handgun used in the killings was legally purchased by Patterson years earlier, according to ATF records. Under Nevada law, judges have discretion to prohibit firearm possession as a condition of pretrial release, particularly in cases involving violent offenses. Yet this option wasn't exercised in Patterson's case, despite the severity of the charges against him. It's a textbook example of how our system compartmentalizes risk, explained former prosecutor Sarah Michaels. We have the legal tools to restrict firearm access for defendants awaiting trial on violent charges, but they're inconsistently applied. This inconsistency creates a dangerous scenario where individuals deemed dangerous enough to face serious felony charges remain armed while awaiting trial, a contradiction that proved fatal for the Patterson family. In the aftermath of the murders, victim advocacy organizations voiced outrage at the systemic failures that enabled this tragedy. Jasmine Lee of the Doc Ellis Foundation called the bail reduction a slap in the face to victims and emblematic of how the justice system often prioritizes defendants' rights over community safety. When someone faces multiple charges of child sexual assault, the question shouldn't just be whether they'll appear in court, but whether they're a danger to others, she emphasized. Domestic violence experts pointed to the case as evidence of disconnected systems. Family courts, criminal courts, and child protective services often operate in silos, explained Maria Rodriguez of Safe Nest, a Las Vegas domestic violence organization. Information that could identify escalating danger doesn't get shared between agencies. The advocates called for comprehensive reform, including mandatory risk assessments that consider the nature of charges when setting bail conditions, automatic firearm restrictions for defendants facing violent crime charges, and better communication between agencies handling different aspects of family safety. This wasn't just a tragedy, Rodriguez stated. It was a preventable failure of multiple systems that should have protected this family. In the wake of unimaginable loss, Michaela Kayla Bernaudy emerged as the keeper of her sister's legacy. Through tear-filled social media posts, she shared memories of Nara's vibrant personality, Kezia's artistic talents, and little Zemira's infectious laugh. My sister was the glue that held our family together, she wrote in a post that garnered thousands of supportive comments. Now I have to be strong for Derek and to make sure the world remembers who they really were, not just victims of violence. Kayla created a digital memorial page featuring family photos and stories, deliberately showcasing moments of joy rather than focusing on their tragic end. She gave interviews to local media, emphasizing Nara's entrepreneurial spirit and dedication as a mother. I want people to know she was so much more than a headline, she told reporters. She was building a business, raising amazing children, and spreading love everywhere she went. The Las Vegas community rallied around the surviving family members with remarkable speed and generosity. A GoFundMe campaign organized by Kayla raised nearly $20,000 within days, far exceeding the initial $6,000 goal for funeral expenses. Local businesses contributed services, with a funeral home offering reduced-cost arrangements and a florist donating arrangements for the service. Isaiah Robinson, Nara's childhood friend, organized a fundraiser at the Trap Wings food truck that drew hundreds of community members. The line stretched around the block, Robinson recalled. People who never even met Nara came because they were touched by the story and wanted to help Derek. The event raised over $15,000 for Derek's medical expenses, with additional funds directed toward establishing a trust for his future care. On December 30th, 2023, hundreds gathered at Palm Easter Mortuary to honor Nara, Kezia, and Zemira. The service featured 3 white caskets adorned with flowers in purple and teal, Nara's favorite colors. Photographs of the family lined the chapel, showing them in happier times. Children from Kezia's school performed a song they had written in her memory, while Zemira's kindergarten teacher read a poem composed by her classmates. They were taken from us in darkness, the officiant said, but we remember them in light. Attendees were given butterfly-shaped seed papers to plant in their memory, symbolizing transformation and continued life. The community's presence, strangers alongside family, demonstrated how deeply the tragedy had affected Las Vegas and how determined many were to support healing in its aftermath. The Patterson family tragedy highlights several red flags common in domestic violence situations that often go unrecognized until it's too late. Financial distress, like the eviction notices and repossession threats the family faced, frequently serves as a catalyst for violence in already unstable relationships. When combined with pending legal troubles, as in Marvin's case, this creates a dangerous pressure cooker effect. Research shows that 75% of domestic homicides occur when a victim is attempting to leave or when the perpetrator faces significant life stressors. Isolation is another critical warning sign evident in this case. Nara's reluctance to discuss marital problems with friends, as noted by Cavonia Lay, reflects how abusers often separate victims from support networks. This isolation makes it harder for others to recognize danger and for victims to access help. The compartmentalization of Marvin's life, keeping his criminal charges separate from his family image, also represents a common pattern among abusers who maintain a public persona that masks private violence. Text messages with finality or farewell themes, like those Marvin sent his brother, often precede family annihilation cases. These communications frequently contain veiled threats or suggestions of hopelessness that, in retrospect, signal deadly intentions. Experts call these pre-incident indicators, communications that don't explicitly threaten violence but suggest a person has moved from contemplation to planning. When combined with access to firearms, these indicators become especially dangerous, as guns are used in more than 65% of domestic homicides. The legal system had multiple opportunities to prevent this tragedy through more comprehensive approaches to risk assessment. First, bail decisions in cases involving violent or sexual offenses should incorporate structured danger assessments that consider not just flight risk, but community safety. Judge Sullivan's focus on the least restrictive means to ensure court appearances neglected the equally important goal of protecting potential victims. Second, firearm restrictions should be automatic and enforced for defendants facing violent felony charges. The absence of such restrictions in Patterson's release conditions represents a critical oversight that directly enabled the method of the murders. States with laws restricting firearm access for domestic violence offenders and those under protective orders show significantly lower rates of intimate partner homicides. Third, better information sharing between criminal courts, family courts, and child protective services could create a more comprehensive safety net. These systems often operate in isolation from each other, explains Dr. Amanda Johnson, who studies family violence prevention. A defendant might appear low risk to a criminal court judge who doesn't have information about concerning behaviors noted in family court or by child welfare workers. Integrated information systems that flag patterns of concerning behavior across different agencies could help identify escalating danger before it turns deadly. If you recognize warning signs in your own relationship or that of someone you know, taking action can save lives. First, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it likely is. Research shows that victims accurately predict escalating danger, but often discount their own perceptions. Document concerning behaviors, including controlling actions, isolation attempts, financial control, and threats, even vague ones. This documentation can be crucial for obtaining protective orders or demonstrating patterns of abuse. Create a safety plan before attempting to leave a dangerous relationship, as separation is the most dangerous period for victims. This plan should include securing important documents, establishing an emergency fund if possible, identifying safe locations to go, and sharing your concerns with trusted individuals who can check on you regularly. If children are involved, include them in age-appropriate safety planning, teaching them how to call for help. For those witnessing concerning behaviors in others' relationships, direct questions like, "Are you safe at home?" can open crucial conversations. Avoid judgmental language about the relationship or partner, which can increase isolation. Instead, focus on specific behaviors. "I'm concerned about how he monitors your phone," rather than "he's controlling." Offer specific help rather than general statements. "I can drive you to appointments," or "You can use my phone to make calls," provides concrete support. If you or someone you know needs immediate help, the National Domestic Violence Hotline, 1-800-799-7233, provides 24-hour confidential support, safety planning, and local resource connections. Text START to 88788 if calling isn't safe. For legal assistance, the womenslaw.org email hotline offers information about protection orders and custody issues. Local resources include Safe Nest in Las Vegas, 7026-464-981, with emergency shelter and counseling services, and the Shade Tree, 7023850072, offering shelter specifically for women and children. Remember that domestic violence organizations serve all genders and can help create personalized safety plans based on your specific situation. The murder of Skinara Patterson and her children on December 11th, 2023 represents more than just another tragic headline. It embodies the catastrophic consequences of systemic failures and missed warning signs. A reduced bail decision, the absence of firearm restrictions, and disconnected support systems created a perfect storm that allowed a dangerous individual to destroy his family. Nara's story reminds us that domestic violence doesn't always announce itself with obvious bruises or calls to police. Sometimes it hides behind financial stress, isolation, and carefully maintained public personas until it erupts in unimaginable violence. Her legacy now serves as both a heartbreaking reminder of what was lost and a powerful call to action for reform. If this episode impacted you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Explosive True Crime Stories. Your engagement helps us reach more viewers with these critical stories and potentially life-saving information. Share this video with someone who might benefit from understanding these warning signs. You never know whose life you might save through awareness. In the comments below, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how we can better protect vulnerable families and what changes you'd like to see in our legal system. Have you noticed warning signs in relationships around you? What made them apparent? Your experiences and insights could help others recognize danger before it's too late. Remember, this community isn't just about discussing crime. It's about preventing it.